Everybody. We're going to get started here in just a second. I'm Joanne Markowitz, and with me to help me with this session is Barb Demers. I also want to recognize Bob Bruner and Ron Demers, who are helping us with the audio tape and the Zoom meeting. And thanks to you two for the last meeting and this meeting and all the other meetings you coordinate on our behalf. We don't have a large number of Zoom attendees, but we do have two of the three candidates that you're not seeing here today. Scott Davis is here, and Vic Petrelli is on the phone. So what we'll do is similar to the last time. We will go round robin alphabetically and ask questions for the four who are here. There were about 15 questions that we didn't get to the other day, so we'll go through those 15 questions. Again, this is being taped. We'll put it on the YouTube channel. For those of you in the audience, if you would please silence your cell phone and watches, we'd appreciate that. We'd appreciate if you would refrain from any comments, any clapping, any type of distractions, both for the candidate's sake as well as our taping session. We received some feedback last week, and the feedback was, could we condense it a little bit? So, gentlemen, we'll be going to about 11:30 today, an hour and a half instead of 2 hours. All the candidates received the questions ahead of time and have had time to prepare. When we introduce the question, we'll tell you which question number it was, we'll tell you who's speaking, and Barb will ask the questions. You will have 2 minutes, gentlemen, with the exception of the introduction. You'll have 2 minutes to answer the question. At 2 minutes, we will not only raise our hand, but tell you 2 minutes is over. So we'll ask you to wrap it up. For the introductions, I would ask you each to take no more than 3 minutes. And please tell us who you are, how long you've lived here at Del Webb, and if you're a full-time or part-time resident. And with that, Scott, we will turn it over to you for your 3-minute introduction.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all can hear me okay. My name is Scott Davis. I live in Vista Bella, the former Area 51, or like I used to say, where they used to test the missiles. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. We had a family emergency in Minnesota. I mentioned that last time. My 19-month-old grandson, he fell and broke his arm in 2 places. And so we've been back doing daycare with him until his cast comes off. But good news is it's all healing well. And he gets the full cast off on the 24th of August. And then we'll be back at Del Webb then. We moved into Del Webb in May of 2020. We previously lived in Bridgeford Crossing, which is another gated community in Davenport, about a mile south of Del Webb. We've lived in Florida full-time since 2016. I retired in 2016 after 29 years as a police lieutenant in Minnesota. We live in Del Webb full-time. I'm 56 years old. I have 11 years total experience on HOAs as president. Most recently was here in Florida at Bridgeford Crossing for 4 years. Been president of both single-family townhome and condominium associations. Great deal of experience dealing with the same issues that Del Webb Orlando is facing: landscaping, maintenance, builder defects, litigation, non-payment contracts, etc. Believe that we have a beautiful community here at Del Webb Orlando, and we need to maintain it and protect it, which is why I'm running for the board of directors. I thank you for your time and consideration this morning. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Paul, if you would, your 3-minute introduction.
Hi, my name is Paul Frazone, and I'm running for the board of directors, obviously. What I believe are my qualifications and related experience are: I've been a resident of Del Webb Orlando for over 7 years and a full-time resident as of August 2020. I have total experience on boards of directors for 19 years in 3 communities, including 3 years on the Del Webb Orlando board. I've got 42 years experience in various engineering and finance positions for a multinational auto company. 35 years experience in finance and finance management. I have expertise in budget development and control, cost control, financial analysis, and value engineering. Some of my accomplishments so far while serving on the Del Webb board for 3 combined years are I led the development of the 2018, 19, and 21 budgets. We fully expect to meet the 2021 budget this year. In my first term, I also established the Financial Review Committee, the Safety Advisory Committee, and the Technology Advisory Committee. I functioned as liaison for all of them in my first 2 years on the board. I led the effort to standardize the charters for all the Board of Director committees. I teamed with the Board of Director VP and Facilities Committee rep to interview, analyze, and select a new landscape contractor. I established the first resident directors town hall meetings where residents could ask questions regarding HOA business and the directors would provide comprehensive, transparent answers. Worked diligently with the Financial Review Committee to ensure that the reserve fund would remain fully funded. We worked to set up the new 2021 reserve budget that will be completed reserve study that will be completed this year. If I'm elected, I'll be prepared to listen to residents and work with residents to help solve concerns and requests. I'll work within the board and any applicable committees to resolve issues and constantly communicate, as I did while I served on the board for 3 years. I'll ensure that you get the best services for the dues that you pay. I'll make sure we have comprehensive budgets that don't overrun. I'll make a promise to always be completely transparent. And finally, I'll always say this, I'd rather be on the inside helping to fix problems than on the outside complaining about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, I didn't even use, sorry.
Thank you, and as you can see, they're passing the mic back and forth, so let me turn it over to Jeff for your introductions.
Hello, my name is Jeff Neely, and I live at 726 Asterias Road in Vista, Catalina. In September, my wife Jenny and I will have lived in Del Webb, Orlando full-time for 5 years. I bring a strong background in community service, operational functions, and financial responsibility. When I semi-retired from corporate America 15 years ago, I wanted to take time to give back to my community. During that time, I have served as an HOA president, an HOA secretary, an ARC chairman, a town commissioner, and a Chamber of Commerce president. I'm being driven by a strong desire to strengthen the sense of unity within our community, and I've asked myself numerous times, how can I help? The recent transition appears to have created community division, either by Vista or by the amenities like the pool, the tavern, the pickleball courts, and the clubs or special interest groups. It is important to hear and understand the contributing reasons for this divide, but at the same time, the result must be acting in the best interest of the community. Unity through honest, easy to understand communication, respect for each other, prioritizing community needs, and enlisting the talents of our volunteers who are the lifeblood of Del Webb, Orlando. What can I commit to? Working with other board members, I will hope to focus on prioritizing, addressing critical issues, community concerns, policy, while keeping the management company focused on the day-to-day operations. Energy spent on micromanaging, in my opinion, is a waste of time. Number 2, increasing the value of the community and the enjoyment of the homeowners while controlling expenses. Our last reserve study was 2018, and the effects of inflation are now real. Spending should be budgeted and disclosed. Now is the time to prioritize our needs before considering our wants. Number 3, many other communities are currently being built around Del Webb, and I would push the board for a strategic plan to ensure the security of our community and our amenities. And finally, number 4, as a member of the board of directors, I would champion a communications group that would focus on servicing top concerns within each Vista, thereby increasing the level of input and the decision-making process. We can't get to unity unless all of us residents feel they are being heard. Working smarter means we need to focus on the important issues while providing transparency to the community. Where there is transparency, there is trust. Where there is trust, there is unity. I'll follow up by saying that during the past 2 years, I've spent time recertifying myself. In 2021, I have the legislative update that I've been a part of, the HOA sales and leasing screening process,
Jeff, if you'll wrap it up, please.
and many other sessions that I've attended in the last year to update my credentials. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Jeff. We're gonna open the line up to Vic for your 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, I'm Vic Petrelli, and I moved into Vista Alta with my wife 4 years ago in October. I'm running for the director position because I know I can make a difference for a better future in our community. I have a broad, in-depth business management, organization, engineering, procurement, construction, contract development experience gained by working with a corporation for 25 years, several consulting engineering firms, and managing my own business with 21 employees. I explained how my application, the knowledge that I have, how it would be used, and my expertise would be used to solve problems and take care of business in our community. I think I've got a broad range of very specific knowledge that can make a difference in the way our management is run. I've been actively involved in the community for over 3 years. I've submitted hundreds of street lighting repair requests, dozens of community work requests for both DWO and Ridgewood Lakes OHUAs. And even personally, I'm not beneath picking up trash on our boulevard to maintain the beauty of our community. Many of you have probably seen me do that. I'm currently a member of the Facilities, Infrastructure, Maintenance, Utilities Committee. Now, I'm not a political person. My approach to problem solving is to analyze the facts, determine what's the best for the majority of the community. My project engineering and business ownership background, that's how you had to do business, period. Nothing else works. And that's what I would be doing if I'm elected to the board. I can see weaknesses, I can see changes that need to be made, and I know how to do it with the support of the other board members. That's why I'm running for the board, and I appreciate all of you that are there being actively involved in this. We have over 1,800 members in the community, and I appreciate the ones that are here to learn who would be the best board of directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. I'm just gonna make a call out. I don't believe Jim Sieber is on the line, but let me do a double check. Ron, Bob? No, okay. All right, very good. So let me turn the microphone over to Barb. We'll ask questions then. First one is to you, Scott.
Okay.
All right, Scott, this is with question number 1. What have you done to positively affect our community since you became a resident?
Well, I always try to be friendly and wave at people and say hi to people. I always try to help my neighbors if they need something. I keep the outside of our home clean and orderly. I try to appear presentable. I keep my car well maintained. I follow the rules and I report suspicious activity or problems to either the management company or the sheriff as appropriate. I try to be a member of the community and participate in the different activities that go on here. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. All right, next question is for Paul. Paul, this is question number 4. How will you commit to working as a team, including with management?
So I spent most of my professional career on teams, so I really believe in teams and commit to working with the team. I think the team of the board of directors has worked very well together. We bounce ideas off of one another, ultimately come to consensus approval or rejection, if you will, non-approval. But teamwork is key to me, and I don't think you can really run a business or an HOA without it. With management, I see them as management. Of course, as an employee of the HOA, but I don't think that we can ever look at management just as an employee, but working with them as part of the team. The example that I have is that we are presently working on the 2022 budget. Both Stephanie and Jennifer are members of the team, of the budget team, with the Financial Review Committee and myself. So we are all working cohesively together. Thank you.
All right, Jeff, this is question number 2. How will you commit to a positive attitude and representation of Del Webb Orlando?
When I first became a politician, only for 3 years, after which I decided to get out of that part of the business as a town commissioner, I learned very quickly that you need to listen to learn. And in order to listen to learn, you need to have a positive attitude. You need to understand that everybody has a right to contribute, and everybody has an opinion that may be very valuable to the community. So a positive attitude starts with listening rather than talking. A positive attitude starts with, if there's an issue, let's figure out how to solve the issue, not throw your hands up and say, I don't know how to solve this. If we all work together as a community, then we can all have a positive attitude, we can all be unified, and we can all enjoy our retirement at Del Webb.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, Vic, this is question number 5. Will you commit to listening and learning the operations of DWO before making any major decisions? How will you operate based on facts versus opinions?
Okay, question number 5. Well, I spent 30 some odd years in project management. That's the only way you do things. You have to listen and learn to every contractor or subcontractor or developer and put together the facts to make decisions. In fact, that's how I energized the Jubail Industrial City. I had multinational contractors from 6 different countries, and I was the chairman. And I had to listen to everybody, get everybody together, because they all had their separate sections to be able to get the city energized. And that's just one example. Every project I've ever worked on has meant that I've had to coordinate not only with other contractors or engineers, but suppliers, procurement specialists, and specifiers to get the thing to work right. That's the same thing I would apply here. You have to listen to everybody, look at all the facts, and analyze the big picture before you can make a decision. So it's all about listening and learning. I was very seldom the expert in what I was doing, but I'm a quick learner, and I have broad expertise, so I can understand the language of everybody from lawyers to bookkeepers to engineers to contractors. And that's how I was able to be so successful as a project engineer. And that's the kind of experience and talent I would bring to the board.
Thank you, Vic. All right, Scott, we're back to you. Scott, this is question number 8. What do you believe are the 2 greatest challenges facing DWO, and what would you personally do to help resolve these issues?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is the expansion of Ridgewood Lakes. Excuse me. They're building 200 to 300 townhomes right now, which will not be 55 plus, as well as the expansion of Ridgewood Lakes Boulevard. Both of these will have a great impact on traffic and potential guest access and even trespassing in Del Webb, Orlando. We need to start looking at these issues and planning for contingencies. We should get a legal opinion on what our options are for gaining greater control of our roadways, sidewalks, and access points. The other big issue I see is resolving our lawsuit with Pulte. They have attorneys on staff. They don't appear to be in any hurry to resolve this. I imagine they're going to wait it out. I don't believe we will get a multi-million-dollar settlement. If the jury were to decide that we get that big of a settlement. I'm sure Pulte will appeal. This could drag on for years. I'm not privy to the information on this matter or if we exhausted all our negotiations with Pulte. If we are at an impasse and are set for court, our attorney should advise Pulte that once we get a date certain for our trial, we will no longer discuss a settlement. We'll let the jury decide. That would let Pulte know that it may be in their best interest to settle because juries historically aren't kind to developers that prey on the elderly. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. All right, Paul, this is question number 7. What are your top 5 priorities as a board member?
That's good. I got them written down. First one is financial stability. That's probably my personal most important thing. Along with that, quality of services for all of our HOA members. Third one is transparency. I believe that, everyone should know exactly what's going on factually. I've always said that if you stop me in the hallway or anywhere on this property and you ask me a question, I will give you the factual information. I won't lie. And the only time I won't give you an answer is if it's confidential. The fourth one is honesty, kind of goes with the third one. And then the last one is that we should always make our decisions based on data. I'm a data guy, and I look at data. I don't look at conjecture. I don't believe conjecture, and everybody's got an opinion. So that's why I believe in data. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. All right, Jeff, this was question number 17. What are your ideas to address speeding in general and the total failure by some drivers to slow down or even stop at the stop signs at the clubhouse and entry?
Probably one of the more difficult questions on this page. I will tell you that having been a town commissioner and involved with the police department heavily, also having been involved in hiring a police chief, and also having been involved with working with the PBA, street problems and street speeding is one of the biggest issues of any community. Stop signs rarely work. They need to be placed appropriately. We need to look at that. Speed bumps work when they slow down to go over the bump, and they speed up to go over the next bump. A sign that says you're going 38 in a 30-mile-an-hour zone causes you to slow down immediately. The question is, how do we keep everyone slowing down continually? Last but not least, bringing the sheriff's department into Del Webb, Orlando will be a major plus. However, when I met with the sheriff's department twice on this issue, they informed me that they will not enforce any speed limit posting under 25 miles per hour. So all of our 15 miles per hour, it's not worth their time and energy. They didn't put it that bluntly, but that's what they said to me. They would love to get here. They need a commitment from the community to come in here and enforce speeding laws and traffic laws. They will come in here to enforce all of the serious crimes, but to come in here and do turns, speeding, they just don't do it. And we learned that lesson from when they started issuing tickets for golf carts. So there is no easy answer. I don't have it. I think we all need to work together.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, Vic, this is question number 4. How will you commit to working as a team, including with management?
Okay, question number 4, right? Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I have many years of project management and corporate experience. All of it, every single one of it was working as a team. It's the fundamental agreement for accomplishing anything significant. And I refer you to my work experience to see just how extensively I have been working with teams for over 35 years. In addition to that, I ran my own company, 21 employees. You can't work with your employees as a team in a small business, especially manufacturing and construction like the one I was in. You're done. So if you don't learn about working as a team in some corporate structure, you learn real fast in a small business. Been there, done that, and it's what I would apply on the board of directors in this community.
Thank you, Vic. All right, Scott, we're back to you again. So this was question number 15. The reserve study is now underway. In your mind, why is this study so important to the community?
Okay. Well, I've been president of 4 HOA communities, and none of those had a reserve study. There is no requirement in Florida for a reserve study, no statutory requirement. The problem I ran into was that reserve studies should have been done at the start of the association and then every 3 to 5 years after. And this was never done in my past association. So there is a reasonable projection of life expectancy of the various elements in the community, as well as projected costs associated with replacements. It's been my experience that HOAs never have sufficient funds in the reserves to accommodate the replacements and the repairs that will be needed in the future. One reason for this is the developer's lack of adequate contributions. Another, it's very difficult to quantify how much something will cost in 10 to 20 years when it needs repair or replacement. It's also difficult to know how long something will last. If you look at our clubhouse, we have the pool heaters, the AC units, the roof, etc. It's difficult to quantify how long they'll last. Look at the cost of lumber. No one could have predicted the prices we're seeing today. Also, unexpected events arise, and many times general reserves are used for unexpected events, leaving a shortage, which is never replenished. One of my past HOAs, the roof began to fail after 10 years. Life expectancy was supposed to be 15 to 20 years. Costs were $500,000 to replace. There was no way our reserves would have that level of funding just for roofs at that point in their service life. What I don't want a reserve study to be is an attempt to justify a large special assessment just to add to the reserves. We do our best to plan and operate day to day, year to year. If we are hit with a large unbudgeted repair, then the owner should decide through the process in our bylaws about the need for any special assessments. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. All right, Paul, this was question number 20. What is your assessment of the state of the DWO common areas and amenities? What suggestions would you have for modifications or improvements?
Well, I think that, like I mentioned in my intro, I worked with Barb and to determine to study a new contractor. We have a new contractor now for the common areas. We believe that that company is doing a relatively good job, and I think that we're looking better than we were with the other company. Modifications and or improvements, I guess I'd always want continuous improvements with how the grounds look. You know, I mean, you can go out and you can look anywhere and find problems, and I would, support getting with the landscaping company and getting those things fixed. Everything, it's not going to be perfect all the time, but I think we just need to continue to work with the landscaping company that we spent so much time vetting and assessing. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. Jeff, this was question number 7. What are your top 5 priorities as a board member?
First and foremost, it's creating a sense of unity within the community. And that's really intensifying communication, and communication that's easy to understand. It's not about the lack of communication in this community. We have lots of communication. It's about how we communicate. I think we need to find forms that transmit a message to the community simply. For instance, how many people read 102 pages prior to the last board meeting? I think we should have an executive summary or a Reader's Digest summary prior to any meeting like that. So we're not asking people to read 102 pages. We're telling them the salient facts up front. Number 2, financial integrity and stability is most important for all of us. We're retired. Some of us are living on income that comes in already established, and it only goes up when inflation goes up. So it's very important that we have a financial plan each year that takes care of that. Number three, pushing for closure on the lawsuit. The longer it takes, the more of a drain it is on the community from an emotional point of view. Number four, increasing the home value in our community. That means simply the budget, maintenance of the community, and making sure we have the best amenities of any 55 and older community. And finally, we need to enhance the enjoyment of the amenities, which includes the clubs and lifestyle at Del Webb Orlando. I hope to accomplish that if I'm on the board with the partnership of the other board members. No one can do it alone.
Thank you, Jeff. Vic, this is question number 8. What do you believe are the 2 greatest challenges facing DWO, and what would you personally do to help resolve those issues?
Okay, number 8. Okay, thank you. Well, the first one is the Pulte lawsuit in my mind. And in my mind is, without question, number 1. It'll be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to the residents if it's done right. I have a lot of experience, technical and legal, in these matters, and would be happy to work directly with the engineering report company and a lawyer to ensure we obtain the best results for our community. Second is revising our inadequate property management contract scope to maintain our infrastructure, and the addition of a maintenance work team, which I know others have talked about, with tools, not just a handyman and a helper. And we don't really have a property manager right now. We have a property administrator and an activities director. This is why we have insufficient preventive maintenance and reliance on residents to identify issues rather than the manager being more proactive. The neglected condition of fishing dock or wood fences near fountain are examples. Finally, I would make sure that we can see each other's work requests, not just our own, so that people can see if there's been duplication or if many people have requested the same thing without action. Right now, you can't see that because of the way the system is set up in First Services. If you click, you can only see your request and cannot see anyone else's request, not even a number of the same request. That's it. The Pulte lawsuit's number 1, though. Could be worth. The last one that did it got $600,000 put back in the reserve fund, and altogether $1.2 million back to the HOA as a result of the Pulte lawsuit, the last one. And that was with the current lawyer we have.
All right, Dave. Thank you very much. All right, Scott, we're back to you.
Okay.
This was question number 9. As you think about the current working structure of the board and advisory committees, what is working well and what areas need improvement?
Well, I think there's a tendency to overcomplicate processes. There's a time and place for suggestions, research, discussion, and implementation. Sometimes at the board meetings I have attended, there's a great deal of time spent on a lower priority topic. For example, at one meeting, there was a 45-minute discussion on revisions to a volunteer form, and that still was not decided. The board can discuss proposals by email, come to a consensus, and then make a motion at the general meeting. If there isn't consensus at a general meeting after 5 or 10 minutes, then table the item and move on. Also, the board packets are very long, over 100 pages. Makes it very difficult to review. It's way beyond being able to print them out. Board packets could be condensed with summaries and then have addendums available separately so people could print those out if they wanted greater detail on an item. I think it's great to have so many people willing to help and participate through the different communities. I do at times, though, find it difficult to keep all the communities straight and understand their scope. There are a lot of abbreviations or initials for committees, and I find that confusing at times as well. Perhaps some of the committees could be condensed. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Consolidated.
Oh, This is question number 22. Discuss your position, what and why, regarding family, guests, and children using DWO amenities in our 55-plus community.
Well, this is a question that's kind of black and white, so I'll pick my position. Families, guests, and children are welcome here in my mind. I would just basically welcome them. I don't understand why people would not want to have families, guests, and children using our amenities. Now, obviously, we can't let kids in the clubhouse right now due to the COVID, but I think that where we were before COVID was appropriate. There were some areas that I wanted to work on regarding kids' availability in the swimming pool, but I would always welcome family, guests, and children using our amenities. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Jeff, this was question number 13. How will you commit to establishing the funding source before approving any expenditure?
First of all, it starts with, what does our budget for the current year look like? What is our projected budget for next year, at least in our own mind? What's happening with inflation? And more importantly, have we properly prioritized the needs of the community right now? Do we know what we need to spend money on? Do we know how much money we need to spend on that? Once we establish that through prioritization, it is much easier to determine whether you will want to go out and add additional funding. However, any funding according to the bylaws that's not in the budget must be approved by the community. Otherwise, it should be in the budget. The only exception is an assessment for an emergency. So obviously, in my mind, the community must always be involved when it comes to spending large sums of money within the community. We should all hear what the community wants, but we should all be able to prioritize that, and we should all prioritize our needs before going after our wants.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, Vic, back to you. This was question number 26. What are your thoughts regarding the long-range planning for the tavern, i.e. volunteers, staffing, programming, etc.?
Well, having been a business owner, I ran against a lot of people that own taverns. And I can tell you there's no worse financial business than owning a tavern. Talk to a business broker, they'll tell you. So volunteerism is absolutely necessary to make it work. Without that, it's not going to happen. And I believe it's a big amenity, and I know a lot of people love being there. It's not always that crowded. But I know there's also been talk about increasing the capacity of the tavern. And I don't agree with that. I agree that there are times when the tavern's overcrowded and people would like to see more places to sit. But in my experience in the last 4 years here is the tavern capacity only swells, say, on karaoke night, or if there's a guitar player or some band coming in to play. And on those nights, it seems like the ballroom where the wood floor is could be used. And I think actually before the tavern was built, that's where those kind of activities were. So it'd just be a matter of maybe shuttling drinks over from the tavern or using the kitchen that's there to prepare food. Might require an additional license. I'm not sure about that, but I don't really feel there's a need to expand the tavern. But I really like the tavern and amenity, and have even offered a karaoke speaker of my own to help them out if they need it. So the long range plan has got to be volunteerism. Nothing else will work. And I just hope we have enough volunteers. I know there's a shortage right now in the summer to keep it going because it's one of the nicest things in our community. And I like to see it continue.
Thank you, Vic. All right, Scott, we're going to circle back to you.
Okay.
This was question number 14. Do you support increasing homeowner assessments to fund large common area projects, i.e. upgrading current fencing, adding additional outdoor amenity access, control points, et cetera? And if so, how will this be accomplished?
Okay. When we bought here, I inquired about the HOA fees, and Pulte stated that they have vast experience with the Del Webb franchise, and they know how much things cost, and they set the HOA fees accordingly. We all know that developers may not always make accurate statements. However, I do believe that our dues are sufficient to support our community. I do not support raising our monthly dues to support a one-time improvement, because once these dues go up, they rarely ever go down. If there is an urgent request that is outside of the funding ability of the HOA, then the owner should vote on any one-time special assessments following the bylaw requirements and required quorums for such matters in our bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. All right, Paul, this was question number 26. What are your thoughts regarding the long-range planning for the tavern, i.e. volunteers, staffing, programming, et cetera?
Long-range planning. I've got three things that bother me, or not bother me, but I think about all the time. One is the staffing. We are presently working on staffing the tavern so that it runs more cohesively between the management company and the tavern committee and the volunteers. The second ongoing, not so much long range, is the ability to get volunteers, and we're constantly looking for ideas on how to get people energized to become volunteers in the tavern. The reason we want volunteers in the tavern is because we want to keep the prices low, and when we get pressure to hire more people, that becomes part of the cost base, and prices will go up. So that's something that I'm not in favor of. The last thing, and one of the most important things to me, has always been, it's never been fixed, is the acoustics in the tavern. The tavern was designed by someone who wasn't a designer, fancied themselves as a designer, and that's why the acoustics are not very good in the tavern. I'm constantly trying to figure out ways that we can improve that, and those are what my priorities would be. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. All right, Jeff, this was question number 19. As a member of the board, how will you respond to a major incident, storm, or pandemic in Del Webb, Orlando?
Unless things have changed in the last year, the point person in this community when there's a disaster is the community manager and the management company. There's a disaster plan for a hurricane that is out there, I believe, unless it's been taken down. It's an all hands on deck. And I've been here through 2 hurricanes. Fortunately, they haven't been real bad hurricanes. But the one thing I can tell you that I was impressed by was the community's desire to help. And I think that focuses, again, through one person, one entity, the management company. We can't have 5 directors out directing traffic, community manager directing traffic, and other people directing traffic. And it needs to go through the community manager's office with a plan that should already be there. And if there are holes in that plan, we need to fix it, because disaster comes when you at least expect it. We need to be prepared. I think communication is one of the key ingredients of this plan. People need to know well in advance if there's a hurricane, what we're going to do. Other disasters like a tornado, you don't get that kind of warning. So we need to draw on the talents of the management company, the community itself, and we need to have stronger relationships, in my mind, with the sheriff's department and other emergency facilities in our area. And that means inviting them in here to talk to us, to let us know what they're going to do for our community and how we can support them. I also think now is the time for us to bring in CERT. CERT is an emergency management entity that could be very helpful to our community. We already have members of our community that are certified with CERT. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, this was question number 22. Discuss your position, what and why, regarding family, guests, children, using DWO amenities in our 55+ community.
Okay, I believe we should allow family and guests with young children, including my sons and their children, into the community. However, they have to be accompanied when using our facilities. And they have to be, you as the person letting them in, have to be held responsible for their actions. Like I said, I really believe we should have these visitors and guests. The problem is that some of you know that things can happen, like the trashing of the toilets in the swimming pool area that occurred about, 8-9 months ago. Terrible. And it was somebody sponsored those people in and let them go free and trash the place. This is not acceptable. I'm all for letting them, sponsoring people in, but you really have to stay with your guests, especially if they have small children, to make sure that the facility isn't treated like it's some hotel room or something. This is a community center. It's not a resort. But like I say, I really believe they should be allowed in. Just be monitored when they're using our facilities.
Thank you, Vic. Scott, we wrap back to you. This was question number 30. What assessment criteria would you use to assist in the selection when competing the property management contract for 2022?
Well, much as it is with landscaping companies, management companies may overpromise what they can actually deliver. I feel it's very important to find out how many employees the management company has and how many will be able to be devoted solely to our property. We do have the capacity to take, will they have the capacity to take on our community? I also feel it's very important to do some site visits to other HOA communities of comparable size and complexity to see how those properties are maintained by the management company we're looking at, and to speak to residents of those communities to see what their opinion is of the management company. Management companies get a bad rap on social media. That shouldn't be a primary source of our selection. Thank you.
Paul, thank you. We're back to you. Question number 29. Describe the most critical services that a property management company should provide to our community.
Well, the management company is charged with doing the day-to-day managing of the HOA. Critical services are one of the, I don't know, some people may not know this, but the management company does all the books. The Financial Review Committee and the board oversees those, but the day-to-day operation of the financial accounting is done by the management company. The other critical thing that they need to do is make sure that all the contractors are doing their jobs. As was indicated, a lot of times contractors promise you everything and then deliver less than that over a period of time or over the time of their contract. So I would look at those couple of things that the management company is responsible for, as well as keeping order in the community. In other words, when rules are broken and when things are being done that aren't supposed to be done, I'd look at the management company to be able to facilitate the process to deal with those. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Waste of time.
Jeff, this was question number 3. How do you intend to work with the 3 returning board members?
As a team. You have to function as a team. Any lone entity on the board is just that, a lone entity. They can't do anything by themselves. Simply stated, it takes 3 votes to move anything past conversation. You can't get 3 votes without working together as a team, respecting each other, and trying to understand the other person's point of view. The end result should be what's best for the community. 5 minds are better than 1, And if you work together as a team and respect each other and respect what you've done for the community in the past and what you can do for the community in the future, if you work together, then this is a much better place for all of us to live.
Thank you, Jeff. Vic, this is question number 7. What are your top 5 priorities as a board member?
Well, number one is safety. We don't need anybody getting hurt, period. I've been a safety engineer. I've worked as a safety engineer on construction sites and other places, and safety is number one. And that includes a street lighting upgrade because we have a lot of dark areas. I hear that we're now trying to get something going with Duke. Very glad to hear it. Been working on it for a long time. Okay, number 2 is working directly with the lawyer and the engineering company we hired to do the in-depth study for the Pulte lawsuit. This is very important to apply my background in legal and construction and engineering. This is just paramount for us, period, for our future. Number 3, updating our reserve study. Our reserve study, I don't see as being realistic. Part of it because it's been mentioned, the inflation. Part of it's because the assessment for the how long the roof will last and things like that is very uneven, was done by a company on a national standard and wasn't area specific, and therefore is not realistic in itself, much less the cost of repairing it or replacing it. It just needs a lot more work, and that really shouldn't be done until we complete in-house the new study engineering report for the lawyer, because a lot more things could come out that are needed in a reserve study that we don't know about right now. So that's one key point. Number 4 is revising the landscaping contract so it's all fair to all the residents. Half of the residents get their lawns cut for $48 a month. Half of the residents pay $80 or more, minimum $80. They get their lawns cut. In a 55+ community, that's virtually unheard of. I mean, I've never heard of that before.
I need you to begin to wrap up.
Okay, number 5, the CCRs need revision. They have mistakes in them.
All right, thank you. Scott, by the
Yes.
way, we're at question round number 7. The question is number 16. What are your ideas to address and improve security concerns and cut down on trespassing?
Okay. Well, we should have no trespassing signage at all our roadway entrances to Del Webb. We don't have any no trespassing signage at our roadway entrances. We could look at private security patrols after hours. We can hire the sheriff patrols for off-duty extra hours to do drive-through. I was shocked to learn that we have actually prohibited the sheriff's office from random patrols here in Del Webb, Orlando. They won't come through unless they're called out specifically for a matter. Guests need to sign in at the clubhouse and wear a band or lanyard when they're on property. When my family visited, I was told there were no more bands or lanyards available. I believe it's a requirement for everyone to have their member card visible when they're inside the clubhouse anyway. Management should be making walkthroughs of the clubhouse and pool, checking on compliance. If this becomes a bigger problem, owners may also need to wear a band or at the pool or have a member card visible at outside amenities. We can look at virtual guards around the clubhouse and amenities. These are cameras that are tied into a central station, and when there's motion, a guard comes on the speaker and asks the people why they're there or asks them to leave the protected area. Those could be quite cost effective. There should be no trespassing signs at the pool. There are none. There also should be a sign or signs with a 24-hour HOA contact number to report problems like trespassing or rules violation. Does anyone even know what the phone number is for the front desk? Does anyone know an after hours number for reporting problems other than 911? We need to do a better check of our existing security. I've reported in the past that several of the entrances to the clubhouse don't close and lock. And I recently found out that the rear door leading into the tavern is left unlocked during the day. So there are various points of entry to our clubhouse that are open for anyone to come in. We may need to look at additional key fob access points on some entrances and adding fire exit alarm crash bars on some exit doors to control access better. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. Paul, this is question number 18. What are your ideas to secure the back gate and stop the continual tailgating?
Actually, I think the back gate is relatively secure, since we don't have construction vehicles coming in. I guess this is a roundabout answer. If you went back a year or 2 years ago, the bars were getting knocked off almost daily, and we think that was because we're pretty sure that was because of the construction vehicles. Now, I come in the back gate and go out it all the time, and, I think it's diminished by that, from down to about 1% of the time, I'll see that the bars are broken. I actually think that the security there is relatively good. I'm not sure if the walk-through gate is locked, but I would certainly propose that we have that locked. I just have never checked it.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff, this is question number 20. What is your assessment of the state of the DWO common areas and amenities? What suggestions would you have for modifications or improvements?
One of the reasons my wife and I moved to Del Webb, Orlando, was we were very impressed with the amenities and the community itself. I think this is an area where you constantly have to relook at where you're at and where the community wants to be as it relates to amenities and common areas. I would tell you that I believe that we need to ratchet up the amenities and the enjoyment of the amenities in this community with community involvement. And the same thing in the common areas. We had a landscaping company that did just an okay job. We got a new management company. We have a landscaping company that's doing a much better job. Can never be satisfied with the job that's being done as it relates to a landscaping company. We have to constantly be demanding more, asking for more, because the common areas and the amenities drive up the cost of our homes. And home value is critical to all of us at this stage of our lives. As it relates to suggestions for modifications and improvements, there are an awful lot of suggestions out there. I think they would have to be prioritized, and the community would have to be involved in which ones really make sense. But more importantly, let's get back to none of it's for free. It costs money. People need to know what the costs are when discussing adding additional amenities or improvements to the common areas.
Thank you, Jeff. Vic?
Yep.
This is question number 9 for you. As you think about the current working structure of the board and advisory committees, what is working well and what areas need improvement?
Okay, I don't think everything's working well. We have a lot of expertise coming in, but the questions asked by the board to these committees are often not specific enough, maybe because the board member doesn't have specific knowledge of that item. In either case, consider that to join a committee, you must submit a volunteer application to our contractor for services right now, which must be reviewed by board members who generally do not have the applicant's expertise, which is why they need an advisory committee. If they think your experience is satisfactory, you'll be interviewed by board members, which again, may or may not have your expertise. If you're accepted a committee, the board will assign you a 1 or 2 year period of inclusion. A like-minded committee chairman is assigned by the board, not the members, as it should be. Only the chairman who's assigned is allowed to directly address the board on issues, even if another member investigated it. Committee members are routinely excluded from contractor meetings to discuss work requirements, and they're the experts. So to me, it's a corporate structure with an HR department. I believe it should be run more like an HOA volunteer group. My application to join the transition team, for instance, was rejected. Look at my resume and judge for yourself. Current issues include contract work scopes and resulting RFPs that are incomplete, although the bid review process has been very thorough.
Thank you, Vic. All right, Scott,
Yes.
wrap back around. This is question number 24. Discuss your position, what and why, regarding allowing owners to enter the clubhouse, specifically the gym and indoor pool, via swipe access out of normal staff hours.
Okay. Well, I would check the access card records to see when people are using the clubhouse and the amenities to get an idea what the usage hours are. I look at having hours based on those records. I think 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. is sufficient. From past experience as an HOA president, I know firsthand that when you have unsupervised access, this leads to problems. Kids, vandalism, damage, passing cards around between people. It's just not a good idea to have unsupervised access. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Paul, this is question number 5. Will you commit to listening and learning the operations of DWO before making any major decisions? How will you operate based on facts versus opinions?
Yes, I'll commit to listening and learning the operations of DWO before making decisions. And like I said, I believe I'm a science major. I believe in data versus non-data, and I always try to use data to make my decisions. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff, this was question number 29. Describe the most critical services that a property management company should provide to our community.
Property management company is simply the day-to-day management facility of our community. I look at the board of directors similar to a governmental agency creating policy. When it comes to the day-to-day operations of a community, that's passed down to the management company. Management company, if it's the right management company, has experience in finance, has experience in policing, has experience in contracting, has experience in working well with the community, communicating with the community, so that a management or a property management company essentially is your touchstone. They're supposed to be here all the time. A board of directors is here once a month for a meeting, or available with an email, or you see them on the street or in the clubhouse. But a management company, if they're doing their job, is really the heart of the community, and as it relates to the management of the community. And having the right management company makes all the difference in the world. The wrong one can create chaos in a community, can create disunity in a community, and create a community where everybody is unsatisfied with everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Vic, this was question number 10 for you. What are your thoughts regarding the lawsuit with the developer?
Okay, well, I've spoken quite a bit on that. The first, and I mentioned in the last one, we need a new in-depth engineering report that combines with the other shortcomings we have identified to date, like the transition committee and my own punch list. Our existing two studies, we have two studies, the M2E report and the earlier Pulte report. Both of them are inadequate and incomplete. They state that right on page 1, if you read the reports. So a new comprehensive engineering report combining those two and a thorough analysis is really necessary, because that's the basis of the lawsuit. And there's some very important things in there. Pulte themselves, for instance, said that the pump location at the front fountain was too low and should have been raised up to avoid the failures that we've had. And there's other things in there for systems, control systems and piping that they said need to be investigated further. both engineering companies said that. So we really need to focus on that. That, like I say, is the basis of our lawsuit. Everything will stem from that engineering report and the cost assigned to fixing those items.
Thank you, Vic. Scott, this is question number 4. How will you commit to working as a team, including with management?
Well, as the saying goes, there is no I in team, so we must work together collaboratively to run the community. But also teamwork is a two-way street, so all board members must be open to a progressive collaborative approach to running the HOA. We need to share in our successes and be open to acknowledge when we fall short of our objective. As a type A personality, I'm very detail-oriented and results-driven. I take failure very personally, and I also rarely fail. But I feel we can accomplish much more by drawing on not only the experience of the board, but members who have a wealth of experience and knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Paul, this is question number 28. How can the lifestyle program be more varied and inclusive to residents?
I think we've already done that, at least started it. We created an e-life committee and a number of residents are engaged in that. I've seen a lot of positive ideas and positive outcomes. I think we've taken the first step and it looks like they are working very, very well together. Thank you.
Jeff, this was question number 11. Describe how you would listen and communicate verbally and in writing with other board members. Describe how you would listen and communicate verbally and in writing with the community. Explain similarities and differences between the two groups.
Okay, in communicating with the community and also when communicating with the board, it's always important. This is said way too often, but it's the heart of the matter. You have to listen to learn. If you're thinking about your answer while you're listening, rather than listening, you're really not listening. So part of communication is to listen. Another part of communication is to simply understand that not everybody learns the same way. Some people are visual. Some people need speaking. Some people want to read it. Some people want to read it in 2 or 3 sentences. Some people want to read it in a book. So you need to approach each situation differently. I'll go back to an old adage, know your audience. What I've discovered about the community is everybody wants to know, but they don't want a 100,000-page book telling them what's going on. Give them the facts, give them the information, invite them to be a part of the community by your communication. When it comes to the board should be driven by facts and not opinions. The board needs to have an open dialogue, they need to have respect for each other, and they need to communicate that way. Because of the nature of the board and there are only 5 members, only those 5 can get together at a board meeting. So other communication is primarily email. They cannot vote by email, but they can communicate by email, which is in writing. That makes it more difficult for them that they have to communicate that way, but that's the way the law is stated. So I believe that open communication, spoken rather than written, is better, and that's the way I would approach it.
Thank you, Jeff. Vic, this is question number 15. The reserve study is now underway. In your mind, why is this study so important to the community?
Well, our financial future relies on its accuracy. And historically, an inaccurate or incomplete reserve study has led to financial crisis in many HOA communities. The reserve study done prior to reviewing the complete engineering report, which I talked about earlier, would be a mistake because it would contain inaccuracies. So I would strongly suggest not completing the new reserve study until the new engineering report is in hand. because there could be some surprises in there that upend the reserve study with unaccounted for expenses. That's why the reserve study is really based off the engineering report, not vice versa. The reserve study has been mentioned too, wasn't including enough for inflation. And in the last lawsuit that Pulte faced, $600,000 had to be added to their reserve study because Pulte, quote unquote, underestimated the requirements for the reserve. Often the developer will underestimate things to make the HOA fees look smaller when they're selling houses. And then once they leave, the surprises arrive. To avoid those surprises, we need this detailed engineering report desperately.
Thank you, Vic. Scott, this is question number 6. What is the best way for the board to maintain and preserve home values in DWO?
Well, I think by maintaining the community, whether it's the grounds, the clubhouse, perimeter fence, roadways, signage, and other amenities, it's also incumbent on the residents to maintain their properties and to adhere to the rules and regulations of the community. At the time of sale, all residents were given a copy of the rules and bylaws, so everyone should know what is expected. The HOA needs to ensure that residents are complying with the design guidelines. Also maintain our age restriction community is very important. There has been some erroneous decisions made in that area lately, and I hope those have been addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Paul, this was question number 30. What assessment criteria would you use to assist in the selection when competing the property management contract for 2022?
Well, it's actually 2023 because we already have the contract for 2022. Same assessment criteria that we used when we picked FSR. Their ability to function and do the job appropriately. Their ability to give us a good price for the services that we're paying for. And, I'm the cost guy, so I always make sure that there isn't something baked in automatically that they're going to get increases for if you have a multi-year contract, which we have presently. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff, this is question number 21. What is your overall assessment of the current landscaping contract and quality of service?
The current assessment will be much better than the prior landscaping company, but certainly room for improvement. I think there's been a dramatic increase in the level of commitment to do a better job in the new landscaping company. I think they want to do a better job. If you look at the way landscaping companies work, usually when they first come in, they overdo it because they want to impress you. I think the key to this landscaping company and our management company working with them as well as our board is to keep the pressure on. Never be 100% satisfied. Always be looking for ways to improve the common areas in your community through landscaping and communicate those wishes, wants, desires, and demands to the landscaping company. We're in much better shape today than we were with the last landscaping company. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Vic, question number 11. Describe how you will listen and communicate verbally and in writing with other board members. Describe how you will listen and communicate verbally and in writing with the community. Explain similarities and differences between the two groups.
Okay, well, as I've said earlier, listening and communication verbally and in writing is the basis of a project engineer and construction management, which I have many years of experience. Doesn't work unless you do that. Also, I've taught adult engineering classes, which meant a lot of communicating. I'm a certified Toastmaster and an assistant Dale Carnegie instructor. and I've given presentations to executive management. So listening and communicating is just modus operandi for me. Also, I don't believe there are two groups. We are all homeowners with equal rights in the HOA. The directors are serving the community, not each other or their friends. And transparency is paramount, as we are all paying dues and have a right to access to see how our money is being put to use.
Scott, Paul, Jeff, and Vic, this is the final question before we go into your final comment.
Okay, final round. Scott, question number 12. The current board has identified and improved the DWO vision, mission, and guiding principles. Describe the value or importance of the 4 guiding principles and any revisions that you might suggest.
Okay. Well, I went looking for the mission, vision, and guiding principles document on the Del Webb Orlando webpage. There is no reference to it on the landing page. You have to go to the board of directors, then mission, vision, and guiding principles. Then that takes you to another page where there is a hyperlink to a PDF, which contains the document. In reviewing the document, I found that only the first 2 pages appear to have been written or developed by the HOA. The other 3 pages are a word-for-word cut and paste from something called the Community Association Institute. While I feel this type of information is relevant, I don't believe it's given a high importance due to its location on the webpage. I feel there's a lot of information in the document, but a lot of this is also in our bylaws and covered under Florida State Statute, Chapter 720. I think there should be a link on the Del Webb Orlando landing page for this document, and that we should have a short, succinct mission statement that should be on our webpage as well as our letterhead, etc. Something, for example, engaging with all our residents to improve the quality of life, value, and security of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Paul, last question for you. Number 21, what is your overall assessment of the current landscaping contract and quality of service?
Thought I already answered that. Did I?
I can give you a different question.
Well, no, I'll just answer it again. I think I answered it already, but the assessment of the current landscaping contract, I think, is better than the one we had before. We spent a lot of time vetting the new company, and I think that they are doing a relatively good job so far. But again, as has been mentioned, you have to be careful with contractors, especially landscapers, because they promise you everything at the beginning and do very, very well, and then the quality of service tends to slide off. So we have to keep our eye on the ball, help them keep their eye on the ball. But so far, I think we're doing better than we were before. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff. All right, this was question number 4. How will you commit to working as a team, including with management?
If you look at any of my past experiences and talk to anybody that I've ever worked with, whether it be a company president, my peers, my direct reports, or people in the industry that I know, I've always been known as someone who works together with a team or with a group of people, fully understanding their point of view, fully respecting them and what they can contribute to either the company or, in this case, to the community. I will always listen. I will always be respectful. I will always tell you the truth, even when you might not like the answer. I can remember sitting in a meeting in our community manager's office, and a phone call came in. And he looked at the phone, and he said, "Oh my God, it's him again. What am I going to tell him?" And I looked him in the eye and said, "Tell him the truth. He may not like the answer, but you already know the answer. Stalling proves nothing. It only creates distrust in the community. So just tell him the truth and explain why the answer is the answer." That's my bottom line answer. Be honest, be fair, try to work together. Unity is important in this community. Hopefully this is the last stop for all of us, let's make it a joyful place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And this is your last and the last question. Number 6. What is the best way for the board to maintain and preserve home values in DWO?
That's a simple one. We've got to maintain the community infrastructure and security of the community. Your home values are not going to go up if there's black mold covering your sidewalk or paint peeling off of a building, or if the pool heater is broken 3 times a year. You've got to maintain the infrastructure, and that includes, of course, the landscaping, so that our community looks beautified. In fact, that goes back to having the landscape contractor cut all of our grass, so you don't have to have some areas that look worse than others because that homeowner is on vacation or something. You've got to maintain the entire community infrastructure. That includes the roads, by the way, which we know have issues. And without doing that, with dirty curbs along the sidewalk or rotting fence work, the entrance by the fountain, your home values are going to go down, no matter how well you keep your house up and your front yard. And then the security issue, we've talked about it. I would bring a squad car like they did in High Vista into our community. It's free. They'll pay even insurance for the volunteers, and just let that squad car sit in a prominent position. I prefer it to guardhouse to make sure our security stays good. I've worked with a security company, and there are easy ways to do it. Like I mentioned earlier about community watch signs. That's the 2 ushers, infrastructure and security, to maintain our property values.
Thank you, Vic. Gentlemen, I'd like to give you each a minute for concluding comments. And Scott, we're going to start with you, sir.
Okay, well, I'd just like to thank everyone, the Technology Committee, the Election Committee, as well as everyone who Zoomed in today or appeared in person to take the time out to investigate the issues, and the people running for your board of directors. You have a choice to make coming up on your election, if we're going to maintain status quo or looking to make a change. I have qualifications I think could aid the community, and I'm certainly willing to offer my time and expertise. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, Scott. Paul, we'll turn the mic over to you for comments.
I want to thank everyone as well, the technology guys for putting this on, everyone that came here today to listen to us, everyone that's on Zoom to listen to us. I want to thank Barb and Joanne for facilitating this process. It's real simple for me. I've been serving the community for years. I want to continue to do that, and I would appreciate it if you would allow me to do that. Thank you.
Jeff, your concluding remarks.
I also would like to thank everyone for your attendance today, both in person and on Zoom, and for those that attended last week. I invite everyone to come to the informal session tomorrow, where we will answer questions informally. I also want to say that I hope you use my 20 years of corporate executive experience, including being a division general manager for a $140 million national chain with 351 stores, where I had full profit and loss responsibility. But more importantly, the last 15 years of my life and 15 years of community service. Unity through honesty, easy to understand communication, respect for each other, prioritizing community needs, and enlisting the talents of our volunteers who are the lifeblood of Del Webb Orlando. That's what I'm all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And Vic, would you give us your concluding comments?
And I would like to thank the board, the ITE, and of course the people, the residents who have attended on this important election process. These questions were devised and vetted by the election committee, which included 2 of our contractors. So I understand you may have specific questions for myself, and I won't be at the informal meeting, so I would appreciate if you could just send me an email, and I promise to reply promptly to answer your questions. I'm an open, honest, non-political individual whose only agenda is to do what's best for the community as the majority of the residents see it. My email address, petrellivj@gmail, is listed on the website's photo directory. I've done a lot of work for the community outside room, and I think I could do more inside if I'm elected. My election would be to manage the lawsuit and the contractors' increased transparency and more direct, easier communication with the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. And I want to thank again everybody who attended this morning and who may be on Zoom. I would like to remind everyone that tomorrow evening, we do have an informal session at 6 o'clock here in the ballroom where any of your individual questions may get asked and responded to by those who are here on site. Again, thank you all. Thank you, gentlemen, our tech, and to Scott, Paul, Jeff, and Vic. We thank you as well.
Thank you.